Hello YouTube, this is Thomas Judge back once again with another episode of my ongoing series, Valiant Till the Last, in which I read the entire Valiant universe, one deluxe edition at a time. And in today's episode, as promised, we are going to be looking at Bloodshot Salvation. So, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the actual physical build itself. Before I start going into it, I'll give you a quick idea of what I thought, and then there are going to be some slight spoilers, but I'll warn you when that happens because I very rarely do it, but it's kind of unavoidable in this case. Good? Are we good? Excellent. Right, so this is the cover. This is sort of a non-standard deluxe edition cover, but then this is, I guess, kind of the post-2018 era of deluxe editions where the design started to shift a little bit from what we've seen historically, which was the banner at the top and the banner on the side and then the image. So this is slightly different, and we'll see a continuing pattern of this going forward, as we have with Harbinger Wars 2, and as we will with the next hardcover that we'll be looking at next week as well. So later hardcovers have a slightly different design. That said, the spine is good. This isn't part of the white spine era, which is nice because I don't like the white spines. They look quite dull as far as I'm concerned. Although this is, as you can see here, a solid spine as opposed to the subtle diagonal hatching that the early dust jackets had. I don't know if you're interested in that, or if you find that useful to know. If not, fair enough. Deluxe edition, no volume 1, no volume 2. This is just a deluxe edition because it's a 12-issue limited series, what I call a maxi series. Written by Jeff Lemire, who wrote both deluxe editions of Bloodshot Reborn and, in fact, Bloodshot USA that we reviewed last time as well. So this is the end of the Lemire arc, and actually this brings it together wonderfully, which I'll talk about more in a moment. The back there, again, slightly different patterning and design to the standard early era deluxe edition that we've seen, but again, this looks great. Getting into the inside flaps. We've now got red inside flaps here, which is slightly different than normal. And then as end leaves, we have just normal black pages. So an interesting point here, again, in terms of the physical design and build of the deluxe edition. The front has got the cool Bloodshot logo. Bloodshot Salvation is the new logo for this. However, as you can see, this is matte. It's not a foil emboss or a foil blocking the previous ones are. In fact, it's a slightly I don't want to say tactile, but it has like a particular texture which is kind of hard to convey. But essentially this is matte as opposed to the silver or red foil or gold foil and stuff we've seen before, which is a slightly different design choice. The spine still looks in keeping with what we're normally used to, but again it has that kind of matte stamping rather than foil stamping. So if you're the sort of person that keeps your hardcovers raw on the shelf without dust jackets, that's just something I just wanted to highlight. Clean back there, and I just noticed a very tiny ding in the corner. Well, I didn't notice when I was reading it, so it can't be a big deal. Okay, let's just jump into the first few pages. So this is Bloodshot Salvation, hence the deluxe edition page there. Okay. Right, we've got contents. Let's have a look at the contents. It's split into 3 books. The Book of Revenge, the Book of the Dead, and the Book of Revelations. The Book of the Dead, keep in mind, this has got nothing to do with the deluxe edition, the Book of the Dead, which has a deluxe edition hardcover available, and this is its own event. That's got nothing to do with it. It just happens to be the same name. Don't let it confuse you. So the Book of Revenge has got a prologue, which we'll talk about in just a second. Then it's got Bloodshot Salvation, issues 1 to 5. Book of the Dead is 6 to 9, and Book of Revelations is 10 to 12. Okay? So, and here we have the usual kind of layout, the first 5 covers of the Book of Revenge. So before I jump into this, I just want to give you a quick overview before I get to the point that if you're extremely spoiler sensitive, you probably want to switch off the video. So what did I think? This was brilliant. This was a really good deluxe edition, really compelling story. Generally speaking, the artwork was excellent. In fact, it had a couple of issues where the artwork, some of the things they did were really, really clever, but I don't want to talk about it yet because it's slightly spoilerific. Highly recommended, and this really ends up the Jeff Lemire run of Bloodshot really, really well. So Jeff Lemire took over after the original Bloodshot series. He did Bloodshot Reborn, all 18 issues. He did Bloodshot USA, and then he did this. And you stick it all together and you got one wonderful continuous story. Really interesting, really compelling, really like what they did there. Highly recommended. Please pick it up. If you want to know what we're going to be reading next time, it is going to be a non-physical edition, so it's going to be one of those slideshow videos that I put together, which is just going to be of a limited series called Bloodshot Rising Spirit. If you want to tap out now, feel free. I will catch you next time. Alright, if you're still here, I'm now going to give you, not necessarily spoilers, but I'm just going to briefly touch on a few things that some people might be a bit sensitive about. So, getting into it, the Book of Revenge, as you see here, starts off with a prologue, which is actually from the Valiant Exo Manowar 2017 Free Comic Book Day Special. Okay, bit of a mouthful. And what that is this prologue is actually set in 4001 AD. You'll remember from last week's video, Bloodshot Reborn Volume 2 ends with a couple of one-shots. It has a Book of Death one-shot for Bloodshot, and then it has the 4001 AD Bloodshot one-shot, which I thought was just something they threw in because it'd be interesting and is inclined to entice you to pick up the deluxe editions for those events. But it turns out no. It turns out actually that 4001 AD one-shot seamlessly segues straight into the beginning of this. And this references the events of Bloodshot USA and things like that. So what you've got here is some pretty cool kind of foreshadowing. Then you get into issue 1. Issue 1, I guess kind of spoiler warning, but it does mention it on the back cover. Bloodshot now has a daughter. Here is the daughter, Jessie. It's a really cool, really interesting story, really well written. It says on the back it's got loads of political commentary. It does to an extent, but it's done very well, I think. And here we see the character Rampage, who we saw foreshadowed in the Bloodshot Reborn Deluxe Edition Volume 2 in the penultimate one-shot, which was the Book of the Dead one-shot, which is talking about some events that happen in Bloodshot's future. That mentioned Rampage, and here is Rampage again, as quite a formidable antagonist for the character. Anyway, great art, really cool and sort of disturbing in some places, really good storyline. You'll see the rest of the team Bloodshot, so you've got like Viet Man and the Quiet Man and the Cold Man and so on. Oh, and we also have Punk Mambo and stuff as well. Don't worry about the fact that you haven't read Shadow Man or Punk Mambo or anything like that, if you haven't, because I haven't, and I still have some vague idea. Like, she's into like voodoo magic stuff, cool, I'm willing to get on board with it, and then it tells you enough about the story that it all works. So anyways, as we continue, what we have here is continue on through the Book of Revenge. It's, again, just really well drawn, really well put together, major props for it. And then we move into the Book of the Dead. Now, the Book of the Dead requires a bit more understanding of Shadow Man, who's Jack Boniface and Punk Mambo. That said, you will get away with it fine if you haven't read Shadow Man, as long as you're aware that there's like a magical, mystical like part of the Valiant universe called the Dead Side, which is basically all I'm aware of. I literally just know that sentence. But that said, you know, I feel a little bit comfortable getting into this. We then get into a really, really cool issue here. This entire issue is just text. It's to depict that Bloodshot can't see for various reasons, both because of what's happened to him and the environment that he's in. And it's just done brilliantly. I would urge you not to rush through this issue, but to really savour each panel, each exposition, each bit of dialogue, because it's just done really well. Don't get me wrong, I would not want to read a graphic novel like this, but I think as a contrivance and as, to an extent, a gimmick, but as a storytelling mechanism, it works really well as a one-off used sparingly. And in this case, it's the first time I think I've ever seen this done. Definitely the first time I've seen anything like this in the Valiant universe. Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of when Grant Morrison did the Nuff Said month in Marvel back in the early 2000s. Where similarly where none of the issues had text in them and it was just visual only. This is kind of the opposite of that. But yeah, it's really good. It's really good. We'll try to avoid explaining what it is and what's going on in it. And then at the end that comes back to normal. And then you've just got more kind of Bloodshot Dead Side stuff. Now, the reason I mention all this, and the reason I think it's important to kind of clarify where this fits in terms of a kind of larger continuity, is because when you get to the third arc, which is the Book of Revelations, this is largely set in the 4001 AD part of the Valiant universe. So whilst I had originally, and you may have been under this impression as well, that 4001 AD was kind of a singular one-off event, clearly it's much more integral into the Valiant timeline. Kind of in the same way, I guess, Days of Future Past is quite integral as foreshadowing for the X-Men timeline in Marvel Comics. So 4001 AD clearly has some importance and some resonance, and it didn't cause a problem that I hadn't read 4001 AD yet. I still understood what was going on. But like I say, I just wanted to mention that it does happen here, and the fact that it does happen here is quite an exciting discovery in the story. Not like I say, this isn't quite a spoiler per se, but at the same time, I'm aware some people might be a little bit sensitive about it. Anyway, it was really good. As a result, the story ended with a great kind of ending arc, nice bit of sort of closing closure. I do have outstanding questions, but obviously there's a few more Bloodshot series to go. So that was the whole of Bloodshot Salvation, issues 1 to 12. Then we get into the gallery and the bonus features, of which we have the usual smorgasbord, about 20 odd plus pages of artwork, a little bit of DVD commentary and scripts and so on. Yeah. Hopefully that was useful, guys. Hopefully that was a decent overview as we continue through our Valiant weekly videos. And we're going to keep on continuing because I've got loads of these still to read, and I'm going to stick with this and remain valiant till the very last. Okay. As I mentioned before, in next week's video, what I'm going to be doing is reading the trade paperback for Bloodshot Rising Spirit, which is an 8-issue maxi series that was released after Bloodshot Salvation. I have no idea what it's about. I don't know who it's written by, but it's not Jeff Lemire, so this is someone new. So I will check it out and see what it's like, and I will chat to you about it next time. And then I guess we'll be diving back into deluxe editions on a physical basis again. So as usual, thanks for watching all. As usual, thanks for your support. As usual, let me know what you think in the comments down below. And until next time. Alright, thanks for watching everybody. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. As always, please follow me on Twitter at @IamThomasJudge, where I will post a daily review of whatever comics I've been reading. You can get an idea of what I'm up to on the channel. And as always, please support the channel by heading over to Amazon.com and checking out my prose novel about superheroes. It's a completely original piece of work. The first episode in it is called Arrivals, and the series as a whole is called No Gods or Kings. You can find an excerpt of that on my website, nogodsorkings.com. Until next time, everybody, stay classy.